So today we're going to go through start to finish how the DEXA Insights system works in terms of using the software to both run a measurement and then analyze the data post measurement. So the Insight software will have an icon on your desktop that actually looks like the system itself. We double click and we can open up this software here. When you first open the software, you're going to have 4 buttons to click: measurement, daily test, animal list, and backup. The first thing you're going to do at the beginning of every day before you start any kind of measurement is you're going to run a daily test. When I click on the daily test, you'll see a toggle function up here. And in that drop down, you'll have fat percentage and bone mineral density. You're going to use a small phantom. This phantom has pre-calculated bone mineral density and fat values artificially put into this kind of polymer-based phantom. You will place that phantom in the center of the plate. When you click Start Daily Test, it actually indicates how to place the phantom, with the label facing you towards the door and in the center of this plexiglass plate. When I click OK, the daily test will begin to run. It is a 25-second scan. If there is any issues with the system, the daily test will fail, indicating the system is not properly calibrated to quantify the data within a tissue or an animal. There's a couple reasons the daily test could fail, and it could be just a simple connectivity error. It's best to contact an expert at Cintiqa to discuss why a daily test is failing. Once this is complete, you only need to do this at the beginning of every day. Then you'll go back to the home button. You're going to start by creating a new study. It is called a doctor, but in other terms, this is a new study that you're going to create. Within here, you can see you can select a study, create a new study, modify it, or delete it. Only the person that knows the password for that particular study can modify and delete. So these are all password protected. Again, if you forget your password, contact a Cintiqa expert and we can retrieve that password for you. So if I'm ready to start a new study, I'm going to click New Doctor. Here's where I'm going to put doctor name or study name. So based on my background, I can write ACE2 receptor and obesity, for instance. I can put a number maybe for my department in this case. So I'm just going to put my personal cell number. And then I can put a department that I'm in, chemistry. And maybe here I will put my email, just in case someone needs to get a hold of me about my particular data. And anybody watching this session, you can reach out to me by my email or my phone number to chat more about your work and the DEXA system. So I will put my work email here. That way you can contact me anytime. And these are password protected. So no one else can enter your particular study of interest. And then you click OK. And it will populate within the study list. Then you would click on that particular study, enter your password, and here you will have a table where you're going to put in your animals within that particular study, or tissue. So the system does both animal models and ex vivo tissue. I simply click the Add button, and here's where I'm going to put in the animal ID. So animal 2312-A. And you also have the option to put in which day of the study. Is it day 0, day 3, day 4? So we're just going to put day 0 because it'll be the first day of the study. Male or female in terms of the sex of the species. And what type of species is it? Is it a mouse? Is it a rat? A non-rodent? A bone? Or a tissue? So we'll just say a mouse in this case. It populates the date, so today's date that the study is being complete. Here's where you can put in some comments on the animal. So ear tag. Tumor is 3 millimeters. This will just indicate what is happening with that particular animal. Let's say you have multiple animals and they are only varying by their last digit. Here's where you can input multiple animals all at once. So if I click 5 here, add groups, 5, there we go. So what it did do is it went 2312A -1 -2 -3 -4 -5. So it added these animals consecutively in a row. And now, for instance, if -1 was maybe not female but male, you can just go modify, male, and click OK. And you can make slight changes to that animal list. So you can always modify these, put in a new comment of your choice. You can delete an animal, okay? And it'll ask you if you would like to delete that animal. Once you're ready, you would then select the animal that you're ready to measure. Let's say I want to start with this animal here. I could double click and it'll bring up the measurement page. And in this measurement page, there's a few options. It will always show the previous image of the animal that was in this study. So it'll show the previous image taken for that particular animal. It'll also tell you the voltage, the low energy and the high energy voltage, the current, and the time at those voltages the scan will run. Again, the scan is a 25-second time frame to complete. You have this option here called subplate. So the animal sits on a plexiglass sheet within the instrument. However, if you want to pre-prepare the animal outside of the instrument, you can use these sub-plexiglass plates. You would then slide those into the system. You just indicate that a subplate is being used, and then the system will automatically recognize the height change in order to produce the appropriate data set for that height change. You also have an apply mask function. So typically with this system, people are going to use a gas anesthesia. Not in all cases. If you're measuring ex vivo tissue, then no. Some people choose to use an injectable anesthesia. However, if you're using a gas anesthesia, there will be a nose cone inside the system. You can take a picture of that nose cone by clicking New, and then when you click Apply and place the animal into the system and take a picture of the animal, it will automatically remove the nose cone data from the animal data for you. Again, this just increases the speed of acquisition and the high throughput of this technology in order to image multiple animals in a single day. Then, once you're ready, you would click Measure Start. You can also do consecutive measurements in a row. So let's say you wanted to measure 6 images in a row. You just would simply change this number to 6 and click Measure Start. Once an image is done, you could then go into the areas of the other tabs, such as Analysis, History, or back to the animal list to take an image of the next animal. Let's go back to the Home button for a sec, and let's go into the animal list to go through some example images and how we analyze those images. So here you're going to see leaves, smartphone, fish, rat high-fat diet, mouse high-fat diet. Let's just, for instance, select rat high-fat diet. So this was the last image taken of this particular animal. And again, you're going to see that a mask was applied. This tells you which tray the animal was in. So there's multiple trays in the system. Tray 1 is for DEXA measurements only. Trays 2, 3, 4, and 5 are for digital radiography images. So in order for the user to take high resolution X-ray only. So let's click on the Analysis tab and see how we would analyze this image after the image is taken. I'm first going to delete some of these ROIs that you're seeing drawn here. So I'm just going to delete that. I'm going to go Exclusion. I'm going to delete length measurement and delete. So just go back here. Everything's been deleted for this particular animal. Again, you're going to have a scale bar down here in millimeters. You'll have an arrow indicating where the door is of the instrument. It'll tell you the kilovolts and the amps that were taken for this particular animal. It's a rat, high-fat diet, 10 weeks old. 71 days and 10 weeks old exactly. So all of the data for that animal is also in its table over here. So you can see there's been 7 images taken of this particular animal starting at 28 days, 4 weeks to 71 days, 10 weeks. It populates all of the measured dates here for you, the dates they were analyzed, and it actually will indicate all of the ROIs that are drawn on a single animal. It'll indicate how many regions of interest that do a calculation for you are drawn, how many exclusion regions of interest are drawn, and how many length measurements are drawn. And you'll see the toggle function up here between digital radiography and DEXA. So if high-resolution X-ray images have been taken by this animal, it'll be in this toggle function up here and bring up all of those images. Now you've taken an image, you're going to see all of the data populated in the table down here. The bone mineral density, the bone mineral content, the bone area, the tissue area, the fat percentage, the fat mass, the lean mass, and the total weight of the animal. That's for the entire animal, so not a region of interest. If I click this ROI button, there's a few functions in here that we're going to go through. And the first is the magnify function. So if I need to zoom into a particular area, let's say the head, for instance, it is a left click, pull in and out from your screen. So let's say I want to zoom in on the head. I'm then going to unclick iMag and click move. And I'm going to move up. And I'm going to bring the head into view. And now I might just magnify just a tad out. Okay, now I have magnified into the head of this rat. The reason I want to do that is I want to draw an exclusion function around the entire head. To do that, I'm going to click this exclusion button here. And it says exclusion ROI is selected. And I'm going to do something called a point function. So when I click here, it's going to create a point. And then when I click over here, it's going to create another point down here and over. Maybe I'm just going to tuck just above that vertebrae right there. And so once you've drawn the exclusion function, it says right click to finish the setting. So now it's finished. Once it's finished, you can actually edit this, make it larger, smaller. You can slightly move it. You can shorten it in this direction. Maybe you want to tighten that region up a little. Okay, and bring it in. You also have the ability to copy, flip it, mirror it. So the possibilities, once you've drawn this exclusion, are kind of endless to edit it or even delete it if you didn't like it. If you're happy with it, at that point, if I click ROI, it will save that exclusion area. And you're going to notice we went from almost 500 grams to 460 grams. So it removed the data from the entire data set of the animal to exclude the data within the head of this rat. Okay, so what else can I do in this ROI function? Let's say now I want to draw a region of interest around the femur. Okay, well, I have to first move and find the femur. So there we go. And I can even magnify a little further in if I wanted to. And then I'll move it over a bit. Okay, so if I'm happy with this view here, I can draw an ROI around the femur to collect the data for that femur. I click the iMove button. I'm going to click the Analysis button. I'm going to then pick how I want to draw my ROI. I can draw it as a rectangle, an ellipse, the point function that I've already shown, or a freehand draw. Let's just do a rectangle first to see how that looks. I click, hold, and drag. So maybe the rectangle wasn't the best option to draw around the femur, because if I right click now, and now I have to edit, it's going to be kind of difficult for me to edge out these other tissues that I don't want in the field of view. So maybe it wasn't the best option. So I'm going to delete that. I'm going to click R next, and maybe I'm going to do an ellipse and see if that works better. Well, it didn't really work better because, again, it doesn't really fit the profile of me drawing around that femur muscle. So that one didn't work. Keep in mind, you can actually copy these just like that. You can flip them, you can mirror them, or you can simply delete them. Well, maybe the best one to draw is either a point or a line. I've already shown the point one. Let's show the line one. So a line is just a freehand draw around the femur. Okay. And once it's drawn, I can either do connecting all of the dots or convex, so through the nearest points around the circle. If I'm happy with that, then I can just continue on and continue to draw other ROIs in other regions. We also have this edge function, and it'll find the outer tissue and edge it to give you a very kind of nice ROI that's consistent every time. Again, you can flip it, you can mirror it, many different options you can do with this ROI. Or again, you can simply copy it and delete it. If you copy it and move it somewhere else in the image, it gives you the option to then edit it. If I'm happy with that ROI, I'm going to click ROI function. And it's actually created an edged ROI around the femur. And it populated that data as ROI2 within my table down here. Again, your scale bar in millimeters remains as you zoom in and out of the image. Okay, so let's say I also want to know a length measurement, not on this femur, but the other femur. All right, so let's click the move function, and let's go over to the other femur. Maybe I want to measure the length of this particular femur right here. So I'm then going to click the length function. Oh, I have to first click out of iMove, click the length. You're only going to want to do the point function when it comes to a length measurement because you're going to click 1 point there, 1 point there to there. Okay. And again, you can edit this. You can actually stretch it out, make it smaller, make it bigger. Okay, so maybe you didn't click perfectly and you just need to stretch it a little more. Again, you can delete this, copy it, flip it, mirror it. So the possibilities are endless, whether it's the analysis ROI, the exclusion ROI, or the length ROI. Once you're happy with that, if I click the ROI function, all of these parameters are going to remain. Now, if I magnify back out and I click ROI, you're going to see all of the measurements are there. The ROI around the femur, the length measurement, and the exclusion measurement of the head. Now, I've taken multiple images of this animal over time, and I've drawn ROIs on this particular image. If I want to use those same ROIs on the next image of the animal, I can do that. So if I click on this image here, so this is the same animal but a different day that image was taken. Let me first get rid of all these ROIs that are drawn. So delete, delete, delete. Okay, so now that they're all gone, I'm going to unclick ROI and you'll actually see it disappears here. So there's only one ROI because it's a total animal. If I really like these ROIs that I've drawn in this animal, I can actually click G copy. It'll say, do you want to overwrite? Okay. If I click on the next animal image, I can go paste. It'll automatically paste those in. Okay. And then you can click apply. Overwrite. Now I can just go into this ROI function and maybe I'm going to first magnify in and then I'll move down. And you're going to see it's slightly different. But I have the option to click and drag this and I can edit it. So I've used an ROI that I've already drawn, slightly edited it to capture the femur within that image. And then click ROI, and it'll repopulate that data for you. I can do the same with the length measurement. So if I go move, and I click length, edit that, bring it down. Good. Then I can move up to my exclusion, and I can slightly move it there. So now I've kind of edited my ROIs, and if I move out, magnify out, and I click ROI, I've edited them to more accurately detect this femur bone in terms of the region of interest or this length measurement. With this function here, I would actually retake an image and pull these arms out away from the head because I don't want to exclude any tissue within the arm here, but I do want to, or the paw of the animal, but I do want to exclude the head. So I could just delete this ROI or retake an image and try to tighten up that ROI around the head. Now, I've only drawn one ROI, one length measurement, and one exclusion, but you do have the ability to draw as many ROIs as you want. So let's say I want to draw one around a particular vertebrae, this vertebrae right here. Again, I might click the line function. So I'm going to click analysis, R next, line function, and draw around the vertebrae. There we go. Okay. So it gives you that ability to do that. You're going to notice there's a couple other drop-down menus here. I want to explain those drop-down menus. So let me click back in here. This small size is something that's going to be in a new feature. Don't need to touch it. You have main plate and subplate. Okay, so if you forgot to click the subplate button, you can change it here after. You have these basic bone and extracted bone and basic fat functions. So extracted bone and basic bone, extracted fat versus basic fat, and basic bone versus extracted bone. Basic bone means that you've just taken the bone out of a tissue and haven't put it in any kind of solution or some kind of solidified gel to hold it solid. You haven't mounted it in any kind of solution. If you've done that, you would click extracted fat or extracted bone. You also have the option here to determine which tray the animal's in. Again, it's going to provide all of the animal ID down here as well. Once I'm happy with this, I can then do some kind of ROI extraction, or I can go into this history tab. So let's talk about this history tab. So there were 7 images taken for this animal over time. And there was many ROIs drawn in each of those images. Every ROI that was drawn for this particular animal in all of its images, the program will automatically graph the bone mineral density and the fat percentage. So you can quickly quantify and look at the data before exporting it and see if you see any changes within your data for that animal set over time. If I go back to the analysis tab, I can also do a compare function. So I can select another animal from the animal list and do a head-to-head comparison between this animal and another animal to quickly compare my data. If I'm happy with the data and I want to now export this data for this animal, I can do so by just clicking export data function. And I can export it as a CSV, a text, or a copy. If I'm happy with this particular image on the screen, I can export the original image, which would have no ROIs or length measurements drawn, as a JPEG, a BMP, or a TIFF, or I can export the image that has been analyzed, which would have all of the drawings and markings on the animal, again as a JPEG, a BMP, or a TIFF. I can also export any data set within here that I choose. I don't know what that says, no setting file. I'll have to look at that. If I go back to the animal list and I want to export all of the data for every animal within a particular study, I can do so as well. And you can pick ones that you want to select or all of them. So only items selected from the animal list. So if I say, well, I would just want that one, so those three. Only those ones selected, and I can save it as a CSV, a text, or a copy. So exporting the data is very, very easy, and exporting the images is also very easy. Again, in the Analysis tab, you're only going to be able to export the image that's on your screen, so one image at a time. I forgot to mention the other different types of images that are seen within the Analysis tab. So we've drawn ROIs, but you also have the bone mineral density image, which shows the bone mineral density map. Those ROIs, again, will be drawn on this animal. And you have the color image, which will also have the ROIs. Within the color image, you can actually change the color. So you can change how opaque it is in terms of the background. You can change the base bone color, so maybe a dove gray, a silver bone. You can change, there we go. So the bone color, electric violet, green. So you can play around with the colors. You can either click apply or go back to default, and it'll go back to the previous one. If you click apply, that same color will be applied through all of your data analysis, so you don't have to remember what it was. You can also play around with the intensity scale, okay, and click either apply or default. So you do have abilities to do this, and you can export all of these images just as we've shown before. So if I like this image here, I export the image with the ROIs drawn, or I export the original image. So many options here. The kind of final thing that is good to see is this digital radiography mode. So for instance, if I pick this 32 centimeter fish, there's only one image taken here, and it is a digital radiography image. So there's no DEXA measurements. So if you click the ROI function, you're not going to be able to draw analysis or exclusions. You're only going to be able to draw length measurements. I can still magnify in, and maybe I want to measure a particular vertebrae on this fish. So from here to here, I can click the length measurements, points, and do that measurement. Okay, but you're not going to get any data about bone mineral density, fat, or lean content. So these are high resolution X-ray images only. Okay, if I'm happy, I click ROI and I have my ROI drawn. You're still going to have the scale bar, the animal ID. You can still copy and paste these length measurements into other DR images that are taken for that animal list. So many different images are taken with the system in terms of species. We have leaves, we even did a smartphone, a circuit, a chicken, fish, rat, mice, and tissues now, even from liver, marmosets, rabbits. So the possibilities are kind of endless in terms of what you can image with the system. If I click back to the home function, we also have another kind of button that's really important, and it's the backup button. You're going to see a lot of different buttons in here. You're going to see data shall be saved for backup. Backup only the database is selected for that doctor. Data shall be retrieved. Data shall be cleared. And data shall be imported. Let's first talk about this. Data shall be saved for backup. If I click that, it is going to back up all of the data within this system. So the computer that's connected to the system. If I only want to back up my data, I would click Animal List and say I only want to back up that data right there. So I click that, I exit out, I click Backup, and I back up only the data that was selected. So only the database that was selected within that animal list. You can also clear the data from the system, or you can do something called data shall be retrieved. If I had a bunch of data collected and I ran a bunch of analysis on that data and I exported it, and I imported that data into another computer that had the software on it. So a computer not connected to the system that had an offline analysis software package that would look identical to what I'm showing right now. I can back that data up and then I can retrieve that data so I do not lose any of the analysis that was previously drawn. So I would click data shall be retrieved. I find that data that was backed up, and then I import it back in to continue my analysis. So these functions allow you to easily data manage all of the data that's collected on the system. So we also have this gear setting in the top right-hand corner. Back here, we can see those modes for extracted basic fat, which I've already talked about, basic bone and only bone. So only if it's a bone tissue that's not within a some kind of solution, or basic bone within the solution, extracted fat versus basic fat. You can change the measuration time and the iteration in between measurements, how you export the data. We tend to ask users not to really go into this back end too much, to contact Cintiqa if you have questions within this setting. That's about start to finish how you would use the system and also or analyze the data once it's collected by the system. So I want to thank you today for kind of taking the time to watch this new software update that has been offered by the Insight system through Osteosis and Cintiqa. And if you have any questions, you can contact me and I can help you with your data analysis or any troubleshooting questions you may have with the Insight DEXA system. Thank you.